Welcome back to another video. Hope you all are having a great day, and this is going to be a special video as I will be predicting the college football playoff. It starts tonight with Alabama, Oklahoma, and I figured, I haven't done much college videos since I did my predictions back in August. Um, so I figured why not do my playoff predictions now that the playoff has been set and we know the matchups for who's going to play who. So let's get into it. Starting off with um, JMU at Oregon. This is the biggest spread of any of the first round matchup. Oregon, I think, is like a 3 touchdown and a half favorite, which is crazy, but you know, and a lot of people don't like the system of the conference champions. I honestly think it should just be the top 12 teams, just because then I feel like you get better matchups. But I don't really have a problem with JMU and Tulane. You know, that they obviously the committee didn't set it up to where they'd be two group of five champions, but hey, these teams get to be represented and at least get some money out of this. But obviously, I'm going to take the Ducks to get the win. I just think they're the better team. I think JMU could keep it close in the first half, because obviously both these teams haven't played. We do have a couple rematches in the first round, but the Ducks are just more talented. And yeah, moving on to tonight's game, Alabama, Oklahoma rematch of a couple weeks ago when Oklahoma had that huge upset when Alabama was rolling. Felt like they weren't going to lose. And now Alabama's lost 2 games, or they've lost 2 games since that Oklahoma game. They're 10-3. They just do not look like the same like they were earlier in the year. Now Oklahoma's offense is not the greatest, but I think that defense, just like in the first matchup, will create turnovers, will make Ty Simpson uncomfortable, and I think we'll do just enough to get the win in Norman. Moving on to Tulane at Ole Miss, a rematch of a non-conference game early in the season where Ole Miss dominated Tulane 45-10. Now the game was a lot closer than the score entailed. Tulane played really well against Ole Miss's running game and played well um in the second half. It's just Ole Miss dominated because Tulane had already played two power conference teams in Duke and Northwestern. Ole Miss hadn't really played. I mean, they played Kentucky and Arkansas, but they were home for all those games, so it kind of made it easier for Ole Miss to get the win. I still do think they'll get the win, but I think Tulane will make this game interesting. Obviously, no Lane Kiffin, which I think will play a factor because well, the offense maybe will still be fine. It's just I think Tulane could get this game a little bit closer, and people saying, hey, maybe Tulane could pull up the upset, but I think they do lose this game to Ole Miss, but I think it's a lot closer than people want to say. And then the final first round matchup, Miami and A&M. Two teams that very interesting seasons. Miami had the great start, but then had a couple bad losses in October, but then rallied in November against bad teams. A&M, you look at most of their wins in the SEC were against the bottom tier, like outside of Missouri and LSU. Every other SEC team they played didn't make a bowl game. Mississippi State did, but that was only because teams opted out. Um, and then the huge game they played against Texas, they had dominated. So I do think that these two teams are going to be very tested. But I'm going to go with Miami on the road. I just think they're the better team, and I think A&M kind of got exposed by Texas in rivalry weekend. That hey, if you make Marcel Reed have a couple turnovers, and your defense is able to make plenty of stops, your offense can get rolling. It's going to be hard. I know A&M is at home, and we saw them have that huge comeback against South Carolina, but Miami is not South Carolina, and I think they have the win. Moving on to the quarterfinals, we'll start off with Ohio State and Miami in the Cotton Bowl. The Buckeyes close loss to Indiana in the Big Ten title game, but still a phenomenal year. Miami will keep this one close. I think they can make some plays, but Ohio State is just the better team. They dominated all the competition outside of Indiana that they played. And against the Miami team that they are better than, they'll come to play and they'll prove that, hey, they can be a huge contender. They just have to maybe right some of the wrongs that they had in that Indiana game. Went on to a rematch between Ole Miss and Georgia. Obviously, that game, Lane Kiffin was coaching, and Ole Miss almost pulled off the upset. They had the lead for most of the game. Ole Miss's offense was rolling before Georgia's defense shut them down. Obviously, Georgia's defense is much better now than it was when they played Ole Miss. No Lane Kiffin will play a factor. And I think Georgia in the Sugar Bowl gets the win. It's just Ole Miss, yes, has great players on the roster and will have this game competitive. It's just Georgia's defense has gotten better since they played. And no Lane Kiffin will play a factor in Georgia getting a much decisive win than their first matchup was. Moving on to the other side of the bracket, going to or playing Indiana, not going to Indiana. This will be in the Rose Bowl. I got the Hoosiers. They just look like the best team in the entire college football this year. They had dominated most of their opponents. They've had some close games, but I mean, they showed against Ohio State that the Buckeyes were rolling at one point, but then Indiana was able to shut down Ohio State and make them play Indiana football. An Oklahoma team that, yes, has a good defense, but the offense is very inconsistent, especially since John Mateer came back from that injury. I think their run-ins here, honestly, even if Alabama wins, neither team, I think, will have a shot against Indiana. I think they'll both get dominated. And then the final game, Oregon, Texas Tech in the Orange Bowl. Texas Tech, kind of a team that I don't think most people expect to go far just because they're like, oh, it's the Big 12. They only got the bye because they were ranked so high. But I think most people would be like, Oregon can probably dominate this. But I'm actually going to go Texas Tech. I think, I know, unlike last year, all four home teams would get the win. But I think Texas Tech can pull off the upset. I think that defense can play well against this Oregon offense that has had its struggles, especially as of recently because of a lot of the injuries. I know some guys are starting to come back, but I think Texas Tech, that defense will be rolling. And I think this offense, if you give Barrymore in a couple of weeks, could be healthy. I think he could easily have this Texas Tech team playing well against the Oregon defense that is really good, but has given up some huge plays. And I think the Red Raiders could make a run at this national championship. But on Texas Tech, Indiana in the Peach Bowl. Indiana has just looked like the better team all year, which is why I am going to pick them. Just because, I don't think Texas Tech will give Indiana some problems with the way they play offense and defense. Because I don't think there's like a clear, like, this team is clearly better than the rest, kind of like other years. So I do think Texas Tech could, play well in this game. I just think Indiana, the better team, gets the win. And then Georgia, Ohio State, the Buckeyes, and Bulldogs playing in another huge game. The last time these two played in a playoff game, it was the Peach Bowl in 2022, right? And the clock struck midnight as Ohio State's kick went no good. And the Buckeyes get their revenge, sort of, with Ryan Day, this time being Kirby Smart. I just think the Buckeyes have looked like a great team all year. And while Georgia has looked better on the defensive side and the offense has started to click, I think Ohio State is just too good. And I think this is where their ride ends, which means that we have a Big Ten national championship, Indiana, Ohio State, 1 versus 2. Just like in the Big Ten title game, And I think Ohio State gets the job done. I think they go back to back. I know they lost to Indiana, but it was a 3-point game. And I think these young guys playing in the first Big Ten title game, you know, maybe got a little spooked in that second half. But I think kind of like last year where the team lost to Michigan in a similar score, and then a lot of people were saying, "Oh, is Ohio State going to go all the way?" And then they just kind of ran through. I know this is a younger team than it was last year, but I just trust this team to get it done. And I think there's a path there because, like, you look at their matchups, it's like outside of Georgia, they don't really play any other elite team unlike, the other bracket. And I think Ohio State can get through and then in a rematch against Indiana in a neutral site because the Big Ten title game was played in Indianapolis, close to where the Hoosiers play, I think. In a more so neutral site game, I think the Buckeyes will get their revenge. And yeah, I think the Ohio State Buckeyes will go back to back national champions. And yeah, those are my picks for the 2025 college football playoffs. Or yeah, I hope you guys have a great day. Hope you guys hit the like button, the subscribe button, and the notification bell. And I'll catch you guys in the next video. But until then, hope you all have a great day and bye.